Looking for a camera can be time-consuming, overwhelming, and confusing. There's so many different cameras on the market that you begin to ask the question of like, what is the right camera to buy? Because you don't want to buy the wrong one, obviously, and it feels like such a task to figure out what you need versus what you want. And I understand this feeling of frustration completely. And so we begin to ask the question, what is the perfect camera? If you've spent any time on the internet looking for a camera, you're presented with so many different options. Camera companies are coming out with new cameras every year that it can be hard to keep up with what's going on. Once you hear about a new camera, you obviously get online and look at the different reviews that people are sharing, and a lot of people will refer new cameras as like the perfect camera. You begin to ask this question, is this the next camera that I should buy? The problem is the perfect camera for me might not be the perfect camera for you. For instance, a few years ago, I bought the Sony a7S II, and at the time, the camera offered so many features that really changed the industry. But to call it the perfect camera is a lie. Here's why. People complain about the colors, the menu system, the 8-bit recording, and the battery life. But the reason that I bought the camera was pretty simple. I needed a camera to be able to shoot 4K internally, capture some slow motion, and I needed something that I could use for low light. I used this camera for so many years on so many different projects, and some people hated the camera, but some people loved it. So I guess the big question that you can ask is, what is the perfect camera for you? I want to be able to give you some practical steps in answering this question for yourself. Melanie Benjamin says when you write things down, they sometimes take you places you hadn't originally planned. I really love this quote, and I thought this would be really helpful when you're working on trying to figure out what gear you need to buy. As you're working on different projects with the gear that you currently have, write down the things that you're needing and the things you'd like to grow in. Keep a continued list of these things that would best suit your workflow. These things could consist of needing slow motion for a camera because you're filming a lot of action shots. Or maybe you're shooting wildlife photography and you want to get really close up. A crop factor camera would be probably great for that. You see, when you write these things down on a piece of paper, you're able to take a step back and actually see the things that you need and want and use in your daily workflow. I know it's so easy to see all the different camera features that new cameras offer, but features literally mean nothing if you never put them to use. I remember when the Canon R5 came out and the big talk was about the 8K. Well, and the overheating, I guess. But the big hype was around the 8K, and I had to ask myself, would I even shoot 8K? And then I realized like my computer wouldn't even be able to edit 8K. And then the file sizes were gonna be massive on my hard drive. So at the end of the day, the answer was no. We're so worried about missing out on the features of a camera that we'll honestly never use. And writing things down that we need and use regularly will hopefully eliminate the fear of missing out. Okay, obviously cameras cost money, and there's some things to consider when buying a new camera, and one of those is understanding your budget. I know this seems like a simple thing, but it's not always so clear. For instance, if you buy a camera body, you'll need to have a lens, and if you don't have that lens, you'll need to buy that separately. Some cameras don't even come with camera chargers in the box, which is insane to me. But if you want to film videos or take photos on higher-end cameras like the Canon R5 or the Sony a7S III, it requires different SD cards, and that costs even more money as well. You can see where I'm going with this. It seems like an obvious thing, but it's often missed when budgeting and purchasing a camera. So when you're creating a budget for a camera, begin to look at things like the camera body, the lenses, the SD cards you're needing, extra batteries and what the cost is if you're wanting to shoot a little bit more. They all begin to add up when you thought you were originally budgeting for something, and it becomes a lot more expensive when things cost more money, obviously. On that thought of money, one of the best options for you when buying gear is to buy it used. This is something I was always afraid about and ignored for a long time, but I'm being serious when I say that buying used gear was a game changer. The newest cameras are great, but they're so expensive. And honestly, it's really hard to get a camera in stock nowadays. Have you tried to buy an X100V? Whatever. The advantage to buying used gear is getting things for a cheaper price, and when you buy that used gear, there's a possibility that people include extra batteries or lenses in the camera, saving you more money in the long run, which is huge. Okay, so a little shameless plug. If you're looking for camera gear, make sure to check out the Gear Focus website. We have so many different camera brands, from bodies to lenses to batteries and all of these certain things. It would be an awesome place for you to check out and sign up for an account today. We've linked our website in the description below. The good news for you is you can't go wrong with any camera nowadays. They thankfully offer a lot of similar features, and you get to decide which camera brand you'd like to go with. If you're currently invested in some glass with a certain camera brand, it might be financially smart to stay within that brand, but if you're starting from scratch, the possibilities are endless. Sony, Nikon, Canon, Fuji, I've used all of them and love shooting with every single one of those cameras, but for me, I found I like the Sony cameras the best. And I try not to listen to the people who tell me that other brands are better, because for my workflow and what I shoot, it's the perfect camera for me. And that's the takeaway for this video. If you have a camera that is doing all of the things that you need to do and you love shooting with it, keep shooting with it. Who cares what other people are using and what they're saying is best? Cameras are a tool for you to share your craft, and at the end of the day, if you're able to showcase your work and you're proud of it, that's all that matters.